This is the town of Whitesburg in Letcher County, Kentucky. The locals call this part of the country Appalachia. It's a place where folks get to know each other because there just aren't a ton of people living here. That community gets even smaller when you talk about the criminal justice system. Public defenders can become prosecutors who can become judges. People who are related by marriage can be on opposing sides inside the courtroom. And people seem to get along with it and figure it all out. It's just the way things are. That's why no one suspected anything violent or dangerous was going to happen when the local judge, Kevin Mullins, and the sheriff, Mickey Stines, had a closed-door private meeting inside the judge's chambers. But what happened inside there, no one in this small town expected. The sheriff asking the judge for his phone, then making a call from that phone, then shooting and killing the judge. All of it was recorded on video. Sheriff Mickey Stines is now charged with first-degree murder after surrendering immediately afterwards. And now the community is finding out a lot more about what happened as the first court hearing takes place in Kentucky. Tonight, we'll show you exactly what happened in court and then break down the potential motive and what this trial will be all about as folks in Appalachia try to heal from this shocking courthouse shooting. I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. We learned a lot. We learned a lot today about the shooting of Judge Kevin Mullins. First of all, what became very clear is that the judge knew he was going to die moments before he died. That was crystal clear. He was apparently unarmed. The sheriff had a gun, and it was pointed right at the judge, and he started firing. The judge knew what was going to happen. He knew how it was going to end. The reason we know is there is shocking video of what happened inside the chambers. I'm going to show it to you in just a few moments. But the video is rolling. There's no audio, it's just video. But you can see everything that transpired inside the judge's chambers. Now, it is kind of unusual to have a video camera in the judge's chambers, but other things have happened in that chambers that likely required it. Sexual assaults, not by the judge, by one of the sheriff's deputies inside those chambers. My guess is that's why they have a camera now. Probably didn't have it beforehand, but they have it now, and it recorded everything that happened. Which brings us back every time we do the story. Why? Why would a sheriff, knowing that as soon as he does this, he's going to be locked up, knowing as soon as he does this, he'll be charged with murder, knowing as soon as he does this, he's facing the rest of his life in a potential death penalty sentence when he does this? He knows the law. So what we learned today is that those rumors that have been circulating on social media and all over Letcher County have some basis of truth to them. In answering the question why, it appears that moments before the shooting, the sheriff's daughter, her name, her phone number became part of all of this. So it appears much clearer today that answering the why of this is somehow, some way connected to the sheriff's teenaged daughter. Now, I told you I was going to show you the video. I'm warning you, it's real. This is what happened. This is the prosecution's case, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't last long, but you can see the sheriff pointing the gun. You can see the judge in the corner trying to take cover, but it just doesn't happen. And then the sheriff exits. Once again, you can see right in that moment, the judge knows what's about to happen. Now we don't hear the conversation, so we don't know what's being said, but you can tell by the body language. You can tell by what we see in the video. So today was a preliminary hearing. Because he hasn't been indicted, within 10 days of arrest, the state, or the Commonwealth in this case, is required to put some evidence in front of a judge to prove that there's probable cause to send this case up to the circuit court. So that video pretty much is the prosecution's case. Like, that was the sheriff, here's the video of what he did, and we have evidence that the judge is dead, requiring probable cause for the elements of the crime. Very quick. What was more, I'm not going to say interesting, but what was more probative of trying to unwrap and uncover why this is happening came through the cross-examination of Clayton Stamper, who is a detective from the Kentucky State Police. He is the case agent. He is the one who is leading this investigation. Take a listen to some of these details wrapped around the why of it and what the rest of the story is. Take a listen.
It's my understanding that video lasted much longer, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And have you had an opportunity to review the video?
I have.
Of the prior incident?
I have.
And can you describe for us what happened immediately prior to the clip that we saw?
Sheriff Stines uses his telephone to make some phone calls. He then borrows Judge Mullins' cell phone and appears to make a call on that. And that led to what you just saw.
Okay. So it's my understanding there were some people who were having a meeting with Judge Mullins prior to the sheriff's entry into the chambers. Is that correct?
Yes.
Have you identified those witnesses?
I don't know the names of them. There's about approximately 4 people in there. Then Sheriff Stines enters the judge's chambers, and everybody else clears out.
Once the 4 people that were inside, that we don't know their names, once these 4 people had left the chambers, were they in an area adjacent where they could hear anything that was going on?
Yes, I believe some of them did remain in the next room.
Okay. And what did they tell us?
Do what?
What did they hear?
I've not been part. I wasn't part of those interviews.
Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, you're prepared for a preliminary hearing on a murder, and there are witnesses in an adjacent room.
I mean, they heard gunshots.
Can I put my question, please?
Yeah, let him ask the question.
Thank you, officer. So you are investigating a murder and testifying in a preliminary hearing, and there are witnesses who may have overheard what preceded this edited clip, yet you can't tell us today anything that they said?
I've not personally listened to those interviews. I've talked to the other officers that did those interviews.
Fair enough. And I mean, we're here at a preliminary hearing, as you know, that you can testify to hearsay. I'm asking you what they said.
They heard gunshots.
Okay. Was there any statements that they overheard?
No.
Were there raised voices?
There, one person stated that she didn't recognize him as being Judge Mullins' voice, but heard somebody say, "Help, help."
Of course, your investigation, did you ascertain that prior in the day there had been a lunch meeting between Sheriff Stines and Judge Mullins?
There was.
Pardon?
There was.
Okay. Sorry, I couldn't hear your response. I wasn't being trite. So where did this take place?
It's a restaurant called Streetside, and it's just down the street from the courthouse.
Okay. And It's my understanding there were a couple of other people who attended the luncheon.
There were several, yes.
Okay. And at some point after that, they wrapped up lunch and left, obviously, and went back to the courthouse. Are you aware of anything so far in your investigation that would tell us there was any issues at lunch between Judge
No,
Mullins and Sheriff Stines?
no.
Okay. But someone on behalf of the KSB has spoken to those witnesses?
Yes, they've all been interviewed.
And there was nothing unusual that had arisen during that luncheon?
I was told that the judge made a statement to Mickey about, do we need to meet private in my chambers? That's all I was told.
Do you know the context of
I do
what
not.
the conversation was before that they would need to discuss in chambers?
I do not.
So it's my understanding that in the larger portion of the video that we haven't had access to, that there is a point when Sheriff Stines asked for to see the telephone of Judge Mullins.
Yes.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Yes, okay. And I would presume that you and the other officers you mentioned, when you secured the scene, that you secured those phones as well. Is that correct?
Yes.
And have you reviewed both of those phones?
They're currently at the forensic lab at this time being downloaded. I have had discussions with the people at the lab regarding the downloads.
Based upon your conversations with the officers, are you aware of any recent content that was up and could have been relevant at the time of their discussion?
I was told that Sheriff Stines had tried to call his daughter, and he had tried to call his daughter from the judge's phone also.
Have officers confirmed that the sheriff's daughter's phone number was on Judge Mullins' phone?
Yes, I believe so, yes.
So that number had been called from Judge Mullins' phone?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
There's your case. There's what this is going to be all about. Why is the sheriff's daughter's phone number on the judge's phone? And what exactly is the nature of that connection? And is that, and it seems to somehow be related to the sheriff's daughter, the factor that made the sheriff do what he did? Like, he took these actions for a reason, knowing what the result would be. Big day in Kentucky. Court TV producer Cody Thomas on the case tonight, joining us live from West Liberty, Kentucky, where this was taking place, not in Letcher County. All right, Cody, let's start first. You were inside the courtroom. I saw you there. Describe what's happening in that courtroom. I'm interested in who was there, how they were reacting, interaction. Are the families there? Set the scene for us.
Well, of course, Vinny, the families of both parties were there. Judge Mullins' family sitting right behind the prosecution table. And, of course, once that video played, that was the biggest moment of the day, just seeing, you know, the point of death once Stines pulled that gun out and shot at Judge Mullins. And I can tell you, Vinny, as soon as that video played and the family saw that, there was maybe a quiet hush for 1 to 2 seconds before his family just burst into uncontrollable tears. There was lots of hugs, lots of consoling. And I want to let you listen to some of that raw emotion right now so you can fully get a grasp of that moment when they saw that video.
Is that a portion of the video?
So So, Vinny, you could really hear it right there, just that raw sadness, that detriment in those yelps and wails that came out of them. And, of course, that wasn't the only thing that was talked about. You just mentioned it, the phones, the Stines' daughter's phone number in Judge Mullins' phone. That was a huge development in this hearing today, huge development in this case. There was no official word on the record about, again, the nature of that relationship, whether there was inappropriate or not. But, again, a crucial piece of evidence for the state coming on the record to say that that number was in his phone.
Well, let me ask you, Cody, you mentioned the families. Does that mean that the sheriff's daughter also inside that courtroom today?
There were a bunch of people speckled on his side. There's more people on Judge Mullins' side, less people on the sheriff's side, but I did see two teenage girls sitting over there that did resemble his daughters, and they kind of sat there stoic, as did the sheriff when the video played. He didn't really have any emotion. He kind of just looked at it. He didn't look away. He just accepted it for what it was, and his family didn't hear any cries from that side of the courtroom, but I did see them holding each other, just kind of, again, accepting what was being shown to the court, as gruesome as it was.
What a moment. I can't imagine being that family. You're watching your loved one being executed, defenseless, cowering in the corner, trying to get some protection, trying to just get away, and unsuccessfully, obviously. Okay, let's get into some more of what we learned today. How about the sheriff? I know he knows he has the right to remain silent. He's learned that many, many, many years ago. What did he say after he was arrested, after he surrendered himself?
Well, Vinny, of course, we saw the lead investigator, Clayton Stamper, on the stand testifying today, giving all that evidence that came out of this hearing. He said that once Stines was arrested, they had a conversation, and Stines made a statement to him asking him to just treat him fairly, but he also mentioned something about someone threatening to kidnap his wife and kids, which is interesting. Take a listen to this.
He was in custody when I arrived at the courthouse that afternoon. He was calm. He was kind of afraid that basically all he said was, treat me fair. That's basically the comments he made. I wasn't present, but when he was taken into custody, I was told by one of the other officers that were there that he made the comment, they're trying to kidnap my wife and kid.
So, Vinny, of course, as you know, we still don't know an official on-the-record motive as to why Stines would have shot Judge Mullins, but after hearing the statement he made to the lead investigator, that could insinuate some sort of speculative motive in this case.
I'm looking at those. I wrote it down. They're trying to kidnap my wife and kid. We've been talking about this being personal. It doesn't get more personal than that. This is a man, this is his family, his wife and his daughter. That's it. You go on his Facebook page, that's what you see. You see pictures of the sheriff and his daughter and the sheriff and his wife and the daughter. That's what you see, that's his life. But this kidnapping is throwing me for a loop. Was there any other reaction from the courthouse from anyone about this kidnapping? Like maybe other journalists covering it? Did anyone see this coming?
No one saw it coming. There wasn't any audible reaction as it was when the video was shown of the shooting, but you kind of saw some heads turning, just kind of as we're reacting. What's going on? Where did that come from? That was nothing that we'd heard about, not even in the rumor mill going around Letcher County. So it definitely threw everybody for a loop, and it definitely came out of nowhere once that was said on the witness stand by the lead investigator.
Yeah, that's right. It wasn't part of the rumors that were floating around for weeks here. All right, how about the lunch meeting? To me, this is significant. There's something happening just before they get back to chambers. They're going to lunch. That seems so innocent. What did we learn about the lunch meeting?
So, of course, Vinny, as the lead investigator said, they all went to lunch, multiple people, not just Stines and Mullins, and somewhere in that lunch, Mullins looked at Stines and said, as the investigator said, do we need to talk in private? And that's when they walked back to the courthouse, they went to the chambers, and everything following ensued. But the investigator did say something about another employee that worked in the office with Stines and Mullins, and they talked about collecting her phone and going through it because it allegedly had a text conversation about what was said during that lunch. Take a listen to this.
There was one other phone that's currently being examined, and the basic reason it was seized was there was a text conversation between Sheriff Stines and some of his employees with the sheriff's office.
Okay, and that was an additional phone of Sheriff Stines.
It was a phone of, I guess she's the, I don't know what her title is, but she's employed. She's not sworn. She's employed by the Letcher County Sheriff's Office. And she voluntarily gave her phone to the person that interviewed her.
Okay, and just out of curiosity, could you explain why that was relevant or germane to your investigation?
I didn't conduct that interview, but it was, I guess it was regarding the dinner at Streetside and things that led up to the shooting. But I don't have those results either, so I don't know exactly what was said.
And Vinny, as you just heard right there, no word on exactly what was said in those text conversations, but I'm sure that will be a bombshell piece of evidence once this case goes to trial. And ultimately, the judge did find probable cause, so it will be moving from district to circuit court, so a jury trial will be on the way.
Wow, a lot of developments and still some unanswered questions tonight, things that need to be clarified, but we've learned a lot more. Cody on the case in Kentucky. Cody Thomas, thank you so much. All right, when we come back, we'll bring in our think tank and break down all this new information we've learned, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, we take you inside the home of Madeline Soto, taking a look at the images and pictures of the rooms where prosecutors say she was being sexually abused for years. What does the evidence prove? We investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan.
In every story, in every trial, every case, there's at least two sides to it.
To dive into the latest.
Oh my God.
And breaking true crime stories.
This was a very targeted, very personal attack.
Inside.
I've never seen that in Discovery. I've been incarcerated 3 years.
And outside of the courtroom.
She's a psychopath.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates. Tonight, 9/8 Central. Only on Court TV.
Sheriff Stines uses his telephone to make some phone calls. He then borrows Judge Mullins' cell phone and appears to make a call on that. And that led to what you just saw.
What was on the phone? We've been saying this from the beginning in the case of the judge who was shot in his own chambers by the sheriff, a man he knows, purportedly a friend of his. They just had lunch together. But it's about the phone and what was on the phone, and that became much clearer today. Take a listen to the detective, the lead detective from the Kentucky State Police, here on cross-examination, revealing some facts that are pretty much connected to the rumors that have been circulating.
I was told that Sheriff Stines had tried to call his daughter, and he had tried to call his daughter from the judge's phone also.
So, have you obtained the phone records from Judge Mullins' phone?
I don't have those in my possession yet, no.
Okay. Have you issued a search warrant for them?
Yes.
Okay. And have officers confirmed that the sheriff's daughter's phone number was on Judge Mullins' phone?
Yes, I believe so, yes.
So that number had been called from Judge Mullins' phone?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
This is so important. This case is not a whodunit. There's a video. Everyone has seen it. The defense is not even saying, well, that's not him, that was somebody else. They didn't even make that argument in court. It's clear. The sheriff shot the judge. The whole case is about why. Let's bring in tonight's think tank. Joining me, trial attorney and fellow of the American College of Trial Lawyers, Ann Bremner. Also with us, trial attorney, former police lieutenant Rick King. And finally, criminal defense attorney, former federal prosecutor Michael Sterling. Great to see everyone tonight. Ann Bremner, let's dive into this. I want to jump, like, from what you're hearing here, like, why would the sheriff's teenage daughter's phone number be in the judge's phone?
You know, and last time we talked about this, Vinny, this was one of some other theories, including, remember about a lawsuit and maybe the civil case with the rape in the chambers by one of the deputies from the sheriff. But clearly, I think, you know, we've touched on it before, and now she's 15. What's her phone number doing in there? I mean, is there some involvement there? Is the sheriff in there just, I mean, he's obviously was a heat of passion. And you wondered, was it sexual? What was the relationship there? I mean, was he stalking her? Or was he, you know, in any way inappropriate with her? Because that's the kind of thing that would make any dad, you know, crazy mad. And that's what happened.
And if you're a dad and you carry a gun with you, you're very familiar, you're the sheriff. I still can't believe this happened.
I know.
But now we've got to peel back and figure out why. Rick, I want to play one more thing for you, because this part adds just another wrinkle to trying to figure it out, because these are the alleged words of the sheriff himself after he surrenders himself. Let's listen.
I wasn't present, but when he was taken into custody, I was told by one of the other officers that were there that he made the comment, they're trying to kidnap my wife and kid.
Okay, so the daughter's number is in the judge's phone, Rick King, but then the sheriff, when he gets arrested, says they're, not he, they're trying to kidnap not just his daughter, but my wife and my daughter. What is going on here?
I wish I could tell you, Vinny, but you know, one of the things about preliminary hearings is that they are always, a characteristic is they are intentionally vague. The officer that they call to testify has some
It was Sergeant
information.
Schultz. I know nothing, nothing. Like, you're the lead investigator. It's 2 weeks into this thing, and you know nothing? Like, the local reporter from the paper apparently knows more than the lead investigator. I find that ridiculous.
It's intentional, but it's intentional.
But I think it's ridiculous. He knew more.
I agree. But they intentionally shield him, or he does not disclose everything that he knows in an effort to, like, hold back from the defense lawyers what's actually going on in the case. He knows. One of the things that I question is, like, he used the words, first he called from his phone, and then he tried to call from the judge's phone. Well, did that phone call connect? Was there something that happened? I'd like to know that. But they don't tell us.
I know nothing. Nothing. Michael Sterling's too young. He doesn't remember Hogan's Heroes.
He doesn't.
Michael, could there be, and this is, you know, I'm looking, is there a lot more potentially to this if he's saying they're trying to kidnap my wife and my daughter? I mean, we already know there's something rotten going on in Letcher County inside the judge's chambers with inmates being sexually assaulted, okay? So, I mean, anything's on the table right now in Letcher County. Anything. I hate to say it because there are probably tons of good people there living great lives, but there's something rotten. Could there be more to this?
Yeah, Benny, you can take some context clues from the way the defense attorney was questioning the lead investigator. When he was asking him, hey, was there anybody within listening distance who would have heard what happened just before the shots were fired? And he says, yes, there were some people who heard something, but I haven't been involved in those interviews. I haven't spoken to them. I don't know exactly what they're going to say they heard. Again, being intentionally vague, because if they had something to offer that could potentially mitigate this probable cause hearing, they're shielding the lead investigator away from that information because they want to make sure they get the necessary probable cause. But it does seem like something more obviously is going on here. And, without speculating, you can take context clues from the way the defense attorney was questioning the lead investigator. The questions he was asking about the phone, did it connect? Was the phone number in there? Basically, and defense attorneys don't ask questions they don't already know the answer to. He knew the number was in there. He knew, his client probably told him. So he knew, there was something more here. And so if you take just those context clues from the cross-examination, we know there's a lot more about to hit the fan in Letcher County.
Yeah, the sheriff knows everything. Like he's the one person on earth who knows the most about what happened inside the chambers and why this all happened. He knows. But let me go on a completely different approach to this, Ann. He's saying they're trying to kidnap my wife and daughter. Is it possible that there was something happening, but maybe there's a moment of him being delusional? That he believes there's some conspiracy? That maybe there's some level of mental illness with this judge, thinking that someone's trying to kidnap his wife and daughter, taking things out of context and putting them together in some strange way? Is that possible? Because otherwise, there's somebody else out there who's trying to kidnap his wife and daughter, and the sheriff can't protect him because he's locked up.
Yeah, if he said that, because it's a puzzler, saying that. Did he hear it right, to relate to court? But right, I mean, could it be some kind of mental issue, like they're out to get me, like the typical, like you see with the paranoid, potentially schizophrenic, saying they're all out, look at them all, they're coming after me, they're going to get my family. And it's nothing to laugh about. I mean, it's a terrible position for someone to be in, having schizophrenia or being paranoid. But there could be something mental, and that could also be why he decided to shoot the judge in his own chambers in front of God and everybody, and walk outside and turn himself in.
Does that make sense, Rick, as a possibility of what's going on here?
So here's my thoughts on that, Vinny. I don't think so, and here's why. Because if the sheriff thought that there was someone other than the judge who had the potential to kidnap his wife and daughter, and that's why he reacted that way, once he shot the judge, whoever else was out there, he had the opportunity to leave that courthouse and do whatever he was going to do. But that's not what he did. He shot the judge, and then he walked out, and he surrendered. And that says to me that whatever threat that he thought existed, he settled it in that room that night.
And Vinny, you can take taking context clues from the defense attorney who probably knows a lot. He said extreme emotional disturbance in his argument to the judge. He said, this is not a murder.
You have teed it up, Michael Sterling, once again, teeing up the next segment when we come back. Michael Sterling's going to break down Kentucky law for us. Don't go anywhere.
If there is an issue as to extreme emotional disturbance, then there has to be some evidence that would rebut that. And specifically, when I asked the witness today if there was any evidence to rebut that this occurred as a direct result in the moment of this observation of the phone, they have none at this point. And I get it's just probable cause, but I think they've established probable cause for manslaughter first, but not murder. Because I've heard nothing that indicates that this is not, an example of an extreme emotional disturbance relative to the phone.
That was the argument from the sheriff's attorney trying to explain to the judge that the only thing that they've shown probable cause of here is manslaughter, not murder. Why is he saying that? Because that's what this case is going to be about because of Kentucky law. Take a look at the murder statute. A person is not guilty of murder if he acted under the influence of extreme emotional disturbance for which there was a reasonable explanation or excuse, the reasonableness of which is to be determined from the viewpoint of a person in the defendant's situation, under the circumstances as the defendant believed them to be. You've got to put yourself in the shoes of the accused, in the shoes of the sheriff. Manslaughter in Kentucky. A person is guilty of manslaughter when he or she causes the death of such person or of a third person under circumstances which do not constitute murder because he or she acts under the influence of extreme emotional disturbance. His state of mind at the time. Big difference between murder and manslaughter. Murder of a public official, you could get the death penalty. Manslaughter, you could get 10 years. Let's bring back in the think tank Ann Bremner, Rick King, Michael Sterling. Michael all over it. He knows what's going on here, the professor. Take what's happened here, what we seem to know, and how is your analysis of what this case is and what happened and what the appropriate verdict would be based upon what we know now?
So it's the question becomes the reasonable explanation or excuse, Vinny. So we have to ask ourselves from what the defendant knew at the time. So what we know so far is that the sheriff believed that his daughter was in imminent danger, that his wife was in imminent danger, and that somehow this judicial officer was responsible. That's what we know so far. We know that the phone number of the sheriff's daughter was on the judge's phone. So we know that he reacted to that. So when we take just those facts that we know, there's already been established at least a prima facie, on its face case of extreme emotional disturbance and affirmative defense to the murder charge to try to at least start down the road of manslaughter. So I think there's already at least some basis that's been established for that, for them to look at the lesser offense of manslaughter based on extreme emotional disturbance.
Yeah, and looking at that, I mean, to me, that seems to be what this case is going to be about. It's about the why, and it wasn't fully fleshed out on purpose by Sergeant Schultz today. We know that, but it's going to be about this sheriff and what exactly is this connection to the daughter, his wife, and the kidnappers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love Professor Sterling's great explanation, analysis as usual. Yeah, I think it's textbook, don't you think? I mean, it's like extreme emotional disturbance. I mean, if he didn't have a gun right then, he probably just would have hit him in the face. But he had a gun, and he shot him, and he kept shooting him, didn't he? In the video, he goes, yeah. The judge is cowering, gets shot a bunch, and then he goes to the door, and he's going to leave, and then he's like, I'm going to shoot you again. I mean, that seems to me to be a great argument for the defense at this stage.
Rick, how important is it at what moment the sheriff in his own mind, because we don't know the truth of any of this, is putting these pieces together that is creating this alleged emotional disturbance?
I mean, that's huge, because what we know is at some point the judge said to him, do we need to talk in private? They go back to his room, and then he looks at his phone, calls, then he looks at the sheriff's phone, makes some phone calls, and we don't know what happened and all that, but it was the culmination of all those things that created this whatever reaction in the sheriff to feel like whatever took place and whatever was evolving on those phones was placing his daughter, his wife, somewhat in some sort of situation where he felt as though if he didn't do what he did, that they were in harm's way. And what I think is very significant is it's the state's burden to prove the lack of that severe emotional disturbance. So the state has to prove that he lacked that in order to stop him from doing that. And I think that they're going to have a difficult time based on what we know right now.
Well, Michael, okay, now the big question. Does he have to get on the witness stand to tell the jury what was going through his mind as the jury watches this video of him basically executing the judge?
The question becomes, Vinny, is it depends, right? So go back to the civilian employee who has volunteered her phone with the civilian employee of the sheriff's office who's volunteered her phone, who says there's all these text messages and exchanges that she's running to the defense of the sheriff and says, y'all need to know about this. When we figure out what's on that phone, when we figure out what might be on the judge's phone, when we figure out sort of those things, I think you know, depending on what's on those phones, a jury can definitely get into an inference of what was going through the sheriff's mind at the time, and you can make the argument without necessarily putting him on the stand, especially if you can demonstrate he had knowledge of what was on those phones and those text messages, those exchanges, those communications. If you can demonstrate without putting him on the stand he had knowledge of those things, the jury can get to an inference of extreme emotional disturbance without him taking the stand.
Ann Bremner, do you believe that the Commonwealth of Kentucky will seek the death penalty for the murder and execution of a public official?
No, I just don't. I mean, under these circumstances, you kill a judge, you should get the death penalty, but this is a very bizarre case, and it's starting out basically leaning in the opposite direction to a death penalty case.
All right, big thank you. This is a big case. We learned a lot more today, and we really understand it better because of Ann Bremner, Rick King, and Michael Sterling. Thank you so much for all your help.
Thanks.
When we come back, I will reveal something else you need to know tonight, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, Madeline Soto endured years of sexual abuse before she was murdered after her 13th birthday. Her mom's boyfriend has been charged, and tonight we take you inside the home where prosecutors say the crime happened.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates, coming up next, only on Court TV.
Tell me in your own words, and in as much detail as you can, what happened that night?
Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the big board, and it's Diddy again. This time, a 9-year-old accuser. That is not a typo. A 9-year-old accuser. Tony Busby, an attorney in Texas today, holding a press conference talking about 120 more plaintiffs suing Diddy, including one who was just 9 years old. Take a listen.
Our law firms have been retained by 120 individuals at this point to pursue cases in civil court against Shawn Diddy Combs. You should know, in this group, it is evenly divided between males and females. There are 60 males and 60 females who have joined us to pursue these claims as plaintiffs. In this group, 62% identify as African American, 30% are white, and the remainder are Hispanic or Asian. The victims are from more than 25 states. The majority are from California, New York, Georgia, and Florida. And I want to focus on the ages of these victims. When we talk about the ages of the victims when the conduct occurred, it's shocking. Our youngest victim at the time of the occurrence was 9 years old. We have an individual who was 14 years old. We have one who was 15. 25 of the 120 individuals who are plaintiffs in these cases were minors at the time of the acts complained of.
Statement from Diddy's attorneys. Mr. Combs emphatically and categorically denies as false and defamatory any claim that he sexually abused anyone, including minors. He looks forward to proving his innocence and vindicating himself in court if and when claims are filed and served, where the truth will be established based on evidence, not speculation. That's from his attorney, Eric Wolf. Things are getting worse each day. We will stay on top of it. Speaking of children, we have a missing child. Please take a look at your screen. This is Bailey Grace Holloway, 17 years old, missing out of Atlanta, Georgia since September 17th. Take a look at Bailey's face. If you see her, pick up the phone, call 911. You can call 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Atlanta Police Department in Georgia. That phone number's on your screen. Make the call, make a difference. Let's see if we can get Bailey to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere. We've got another hour of live true crime. Vinnie Politan Investigates is next. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.